Hi, Emily here for Little Blue Book, and today I am filming a reminiscent video of my favorite books when I was younger. So they're all series except for one book, which I really wanted to include in this video. So let's get started. My first series I have is, I think, a series a lot of people read when they were younger, and it is Magic Tree House by Mary Pop Osborne. I read my first Magic Tree House book, and I remember it was the 11th one about dolphins in first grade. And I just loved the characters, Jack and Annie, the brother and sister duo who traveled in their magical tree house and went in different places in history and just went on these crazy awesome adventures to help Morgan and Merlin and all the different people they met along the way. These books were really, I think, building blocks to my reading experience as a kid. And from there, another series I read around the same time, which I do not have anymore, is the Rainbow Magic series by, oh my goodness, I can't remember. But I loved, the friends were Christy and someone else. Oh my goodness, it's been so long. But I loved their adventures with the fairies and helping them find their different magical items. Like, there was the Sun Fairy. That was the first book I read. I saw it in the library, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. So I really enjoyed that series. The series we read as a class in grade 4, the teacher read this book to us, was... The name of this book is Secret, which I mentioned in another book, and it is by Pseudomonas Bouche. I always say it wrong. But I loved the series with Cassandra and Max. That's their names. And all the secret, and it ties different senses into the different books, and the different people they meet on their journeys, and the trouble they get into, and just unraveling the different mysteries that are being developed throughout the series. So the first book is, the name of this book is Secret, and then there was, if you're reading this, it's too late, really, titles that made you be like, oh, you don't want to read it. That was the idea for the books. And then This Book Is Not Good For You, and then I don't have the one after it, but it was, if you're reading it, This Isn't What It Looks Like. And then the final book is You Have to Stop This. So that was a series I really enjoyed, and I'm glad our teacher read it to us. Because normally when teachers read books to the class, I was kind of like, you know. Because I personally just love reading books to myself. When teachers read them, it was just like so slow, and I couldn't get into it. But that series I loved as the teacher read, and I really got hooked into it. Now, grade 4 was a really great year for books for me. But grade 4 was the year that I started reading Harry Potter. I just love Harry Potter so much. But yeah, we read the first book for, I chose it to read it for my project because it was just like on the list of books you could choose. And I'm so glad I picked up this book, because if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't be making these videos. It was definitely the first series I really, really got into, and definitely my first fandom. But I read that book in grade 4, and then I read the next two in the summer, along with the fourth, which is the only Harry Potter book I do not own, which is really funny because it's my favorite. But I never ended up getting it. And then The Order of the Phoenix I did for my grade 5 book report. Then I read the 6th and the 7th, which I'm ashamed for the condition the 6th is in. But yeah, we don't talk about that. Now, what was there was another series. Yes, we read Dear Canada in grade 4. We read Footsteps in the Snow, and Dear Canada was great because, you know, Canadian, really proud to be. And then just different stories of girls throughout history. There were historical fiction, probably the first, if not only, historical fiction books I've read. But just, it was great because it had these incredible stories, and it also taught me about the past of the country that I've grown up in. So it was like a history lesson tied into a really great book. Not Dear America, though. There's also a series called Dear America, and I started reading one of them, and then there's cannibalism, and it just freaked me out as a young child, and I was like, no, not Dear America, Dear Canada. That was safe. So my favorite, I don't own it, my favorite Dear Canada book was To Stand on My Own, which was about a girl who got polio, and that was a really great book. I've probably read that one 4 times. And then I only read this one, and it is called I Am Canada, and it was about it was boys. Yeah, they were the protagonists in the books. And this one was about World War II, and it was good. I enjoyed it. Dear Canada, though, I think was still my favorite. All the different Dear Canada books are written by different authors, so it's one series, but different authors write the stories, so there's kind of different feels between the different books, which was nice. Another series, I started this series in grade 6, because I picked it up probably around grade 3, grade 4, but then I just couldn't get into it, and I don't know why looking back, but I'm glad I did pick it up again in grade 6, and that series is Percy Jackson. This is another series like Harry Potter that I love so much, and if you have not read Percy Jackson, it is about a boy named Percy Jackson, funny enough, and he finds out that he is the son of a Greek god, and it's like, what? But then there's this whole story about how he gets framed for stealing Zeus's lightning bolt, and I don't want to reveal his godly parentage, you might already know, but already there's kind of some tough stuff between his dad and Zeus, so Zeus doesn't like kids of his dad most of the time. But yeah, Percy Jackson. There's Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, and then now a new series, still in the Percy Jackson world of Greek gods, that Rick Riordan wrote, The Trials of Apollo. That was a good one too. I definitely recommend you read these books. I recommend you read all these books, but especially Percy Jackson and Harry Potter. Yeah, definitely those books. And then another series I read was... I picked this actually up in middle school. I think I would have still enjoyed it when I was younger. But that series is... I only have the 3rd book. The Sisters Grimm. I reread this series recently because I just remembered how much I loved it. And I'm glad I did. I love those books. It's about 2 sisters named Daphne and Sabrina, and they find out that they are descendants of the Brothers Grimm, who wrote all the fairy tales, and they end up in a town called Fairyport Landing, where their crazy grandmother tells them that fairy tales are real, and that their great grandfathers did not write children's stories. They wrote real history about these different fairy tale creatures called ever afters. And it's about the whole crazy world they get wrapped into in Fairyport Landing and the adventures they go on as they try to uncover the leader of an organization called the Scarlet Hand, which kidnapped their parents 2 years ago. This is a great series. Definitely recommend reading it to anyone, all ages, but especially if you're in that mid-years range. Please read it. Now, another series which I think everyone's heard of, Goosebumps by R.L. Stine. These books, as a kid, terrified me. I skipped to the end to most books, I'm ashamed to admit, and then I wouldn't finish them because I was like, oh, I knew what happens, so I don't need to finish them now, but at least I'll be able to sleep at night. I've probably only finished 4 of them. I would reread them. They remind me of being terrified as a child. But if you're really into scary books, Goosebumps. There's lots of them. There's the whole original series and then different, I don't think there's spin-off series. They're still by R.L. Stine, but they just have a different feel to them. And then they have Choose Your Own Adventures. I finished a lot of those. Those were really fun to do. And then you pick your own story, etc. I have another. Yes. Geronimo Stilton. I love the adventures of the mouse and the mouse who wears a suit and tie. And this series from Geronimo Stilton in particular, there's the Geronimo Stilton, and there's different series like the Kingdom of Fantasy, Cave Mice, Space Mice, I think. There's come a lot since I stopped reading them. But the Kingdom of Fantasy was definitely my favorite out of the Geronimo Stilton series. And it's about Geronimo Stilton, and, of course, he ends up going through this portal place, and he ends up in the Kingdom of Fantasy, and he needs to rescue the Queen of the Fairies. So I read the first one. I probably read the first one 3 times. And then there was the second one, which was Return to the Kingdom of Fantasy, and I think by now there's probably like 5 books, but I was getting older as they started coming out, and they just didn't become as high on my reading list. I might read them eventually when I have time, but I've just been reading some other novels lately. And then a series that, this came out more, I say recently, but it's probably 3 years ago. And it was the Thea Stiltons, and I loved the main characters because it was about Thea Stilton, and then she becomes a teacher at this school at Mouseford Academy, and then she meets these awesome mystery-solving girls, which are her students, and there's 5 of them. There's Nikki, Colette, Pamela, Paulina, and Violet, and they're just all unique in their own different ways, and they go and they solve mysteries, and it was just like awesome girl power, kind of, when I read it. And just a series worth mentioning is HSN Mysteries, which I'm pretty sure I read all 26 books. They were really great mystery novels. I think that's the first mystery series I read. And then I also used to read the Nancy Drew, but not the original Nancy Drew because I could never find them. And funny enough, I have like an entire series now and I haven't taken the time to read it. But I read the kids version of Nancy Drew. It was like Nancy Drew, but she's written as like a 12-year-old, I think. I remember enjoying those 2 for mystery novels when I was younger. And then finally, this isn't a series, but it is a book I really wanted to mention, and it's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I read this probably grade 7, so not quite elementary school, but I just loved that it was kind of like a coming-of-age story about this girl named Margaret who moved somewhere new and having to make new friends and deal with different things as stuff changes, and then also with religion, with her parents. Her father was Jewish, her mother was Christian. It might be the other way. It's been a while since I read it. But then just like her relationship with God, and it was definitely a really great book. I've read it 2 or 3 times now, and I'm thinking about reading it again just because I remember enjoying it so much. And yeah, so these are some of my favorite series, not individual books, that would probably take way too long, but these were my favorite series as a kid, and I hope, regardless of age, that you will maybe try a couple out, because they are all good books, whether you're 11 or my age or older. Yeah, they're just great series that I've enjoyed and have definitely been a big part of my reading experience as I grew up. Make sure to tune in Friday and watch Megan's video and hit the subscribe button so you get notifications for all new posts. Bye!